So the Americans are heading towards their bases in West Asia. Iran is also has upped the ante. It's saying that it will do a live fire naval exercise right at the U.S. ships. Barbs have been traded, but there have been some conciliatory statements that have been made. To understand all that, what is really happening and transpiring, why these renewed escalation of tensions in West Asia. I'm joined by Prabhu Dayal, former senior diplomat, to tell us about, to put in context for us the rising geopolitical tensions in the region. Ambassador Dayal, can I have Ambassador Dayal on the screen, please? Yes, I can see him. Ambassador Dayal, thank you very much for being on the show. Straight away, the question, why this renewed escalation in tensions, or is it a continuation of the tensions which had subsided just for a little while?
Well, Amritpal, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. As regards your question, whether these are things which have happened afresh or whether they are a continuation of the tensions which took place last year, I think that the current tensions are a continuation of the 12-day war which took place in June last year, and during which war Israel and the United States conducted major strikes against Iranian nuclear and military sites. So if you recall, a ceasefire was reached in June, but regional stability remained fragile. And now tensions are again fueled by a violent crackdown on nationwide anti-government protests that began in December 2025. So, as I see it, the chances of a direct military escalation between the US and Iran are currently at the highest point in years. Now, let me also mention that some Western sources have described a military strike by the US against Iran as virtually certain. They say that this strike is not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. The timing is important. Now, these sources say that the primary goal would be an unprecedented blow to weaken or even make the Iranian government's structure collapse, target the IRGC command centers, the missile sites, and the nuclear facilities. Now, as you said during your introductory remarks, President Trump has deployed a massive armada led by the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. And this is all to the Arabian Sea. But that's heading towards the Gulf of Hormuz and into the sea, which the sea waters which border Iran. It will be positioned there. And he has said that the fleet will act with speed and violence if a deal is not reached. However, in response to the US buildup, Iran has announced 2 days of live fire naval exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iranian officials have vowed an unprecedented and crushing response to any US attack. And they've said their finger is on the trigger. But on the other hand, the US Central Command, or the CENTCOM, has warned that it will not tolerate unsafe maneuvers near its warships. Therefore, I think we are in a very dangerous situation, and we will be stumbling towards increased destabilization in the Middle East if a US military attack on Iran takes place.
But there are, Ambassador, undoubtedly, this is a dangerous situation. But there are conciliatory voices also coming out of both camps. President Trump, when asked that, do you think the Iranians will make a deal, he says, yes, I think they will. The Iranians say, we are ready to talk to the Americans, but we'll not talk under the shadow of threat. So even while this, military buildup is happening, there are indications that there is some back and forth happening between the two sides.
The US administration has reportedly set an undisclosed deadline for Iran to return to the negotiating table. Now, as you mentioned, President Trump has said that Iran wants to make a deal. But frankly, no one knows what are the chances of securing this deal. Let me say that Trump has expressed confidence that Iran will make a deal. But Iran has publicly stated it will not negotiate while under direct military threat. Now, reports indicate that Iran is open to entering negotiations with the US, but the conditions which the US is demanding, that becomes a little problem, and Iran draws the line where these conditions are met, including, of course, the condition that Iran should relinquish its uranium enrichment program, as also its missile program.
In fact, I wanted to come to this question. What is this negotiation or deal or this maneuvering all about? Is it about the nuclear program? Is it about the ballistic missiles program? Is it about a change of the clerical leadership? Is it about democracy? Because Trump says a lot of things in the same breath. He said, well, 837 people have been executed. On the other hand, he says, if a deal is not reached on the nuclear enrichment program, then there will be military intervention. What are the goalposts here? What are the Americans or the West trying to do here?
Well, I think they're trying to achieve different objectives and hoping that they succeed in doing so as regards as many objectives as possible. First of all, they do want a dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program because Israel, which is so closely allied with the United States, Israel feels that the Iranian nuclear program would be a massive threat to it. And of course, the US also doesn't want a nuclear armed Iran. Similarly, Iran's ability to use missiles to strike even distant targets is becoming a cause of alarm. There are reports that Iran has tested missiles which can strike targets as far away as 2,000 kilometers. And the reports are that perhaps it is testing missiles which have even a longer range to strike.
Okay.
Now, this is a cause of concern to the West, particularly to the United States and its ally, Israel. So the other Western partners are also joining in trying to put down the Iranian nuclear program. And in fact, some of the Western countries have labeled the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Now, there is also a sort of closely held desire within the US establishment to topple the regime. Look, since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, there is no love lost between the United States and
Iran, yeah.
I've served in both countries. And in Iran, this sort of outburst against the United States was more vocal. Whenever there would be any protests or demonstrations, you would hear people shouting, "Death to America." And at the same time, there were cries of death to Israel. America was referred to as the Shaitan-e-Buzurg, and Israel as the small Satan, the Shaitan-e-Kuchlu. In other words, there is deep suspicion for each other between the United States and Iran. And the United States would be quite happy to see this regime ousted. Of course, it's easier said than done because the Iranian regime is well entrenched and is supported by the armed Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Iran is no Venezuela here. Yeah.
So it's not like Venezuela. Everybody is beginning to think that the Iranian regime is going to be ousted, just like Maduro was pulled out from there, kidnapped and taken, is under imprisonment in the United States. the Iranian regime is not in the same
True.
league, it's
Okay.
not in the same kettle of fish, but nonetheless, I think we are facing a period of very severe tensions, and I think it wouldn't be wrong to say that these tensions have not shown signs of de-escalation. In fact, all signals are that these tensions are unfortunately escalating.
Escalating. Well, with the next few days would be something to watch very closely to see whether it escalates or some diplomatic scramble can be made to de-escalate it for the moment. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, that's all the time I have for. Thank you very much for being on the show and sharing your insights with us. Thank you.